Hit the OK button. Oh, maybe I don't have to hit the button. Just kidding.
All right, everyone. Good evening. I'd like to welcome all of you tonight for our program with Chef Kelcy again. We'd like to welcome her back for another exciting cooking program tonight, and she is going to talk about how to cook a spring risotto. Kelsey?
Awesome. Thank you. Just adjusting my camera. I'm gonna do one more little adjust. My head was a little cut off. There we go. Perfect. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Chef Kelcy. I am a Lowell-based chef and food educator, and I'm also the farm chef and kitchen manager at Right Lock Farm in Winchester. I do all kinds of things, including these library programs, which I absolutely love. I do farm to table dinners and senior tea times and, teaching of kids and all these amazing things. So I'm very, very blessed to be able to have such a fantastic and diverse job. And it is officially spring, although the weather's been like really weird lately. It snowed on Saturday, which was unexpected, but classic for New England. And so today we're going to be making one of my favorite recipes. This is a spring risotto program, but the reality is risotto is just one of the most versatile things that you could make. I actually like to call it fridge trash food because it's great when you have like just a few things and not really enough to like make a meal. Like, what do you do if you have like a handful of mushrooms, tomatoes, and asparagus? Like, make a risotto. Or in the fall, like I've got like some leftover pumpkin puree. Like, what am I going to do with that? Let's make a risotto. So it's this really great dish. It's actually incredibly easy. I'm going to demystify it. My dog has the zoomies and is walking around, so you might get to catch a little glimpse of Lily. Hopefully, she doesn't knock into any of our lights or anything. So today what we're going to do is we are going to make a risotto. This is great. Like I said, it's really versatile. The recipe that I'm giving you guys is for like a spring one with lemon, but you can really change it up. It's super easy to do. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to pair it with some blistered cherry tomatoes and roasted asparagus. And then we're going to make a crispy skin chicken thigh and a spinach pesto. So the recipe I'm giving you guys is an arugula basil pesto. Um, and I'll talk more about like what you can do with this, but it's kind of like this idea, like eating seasonally. It's what we have access to. I also think it's a great way to reduce our food waste. So I have a bunch of spinach, and I was like, why am I going to go buy arugula and basil when I have spinach? Like, let me make it with some spinach because it's going to be just as delicious. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get started just chopping up some onions and garlic. And that's kind of like the most chopping we're really going to do today. It's not a chopping heavy program. The food processor is going to do most of that for us. But we're going to start by chopping our onions. So for the risotto, we're going to have onions and garlic as the base for it. And then we're going to add the rest of the flavor at the end. And I'm going to talk more about like risotto and what that is later. But we're going to get our onions ready. So this is my onion. I'm not making a very big batch of risotto. It's just my partner and I. And while we do like leftover risotto, it's actually great for making like fried arancini. We're just not going to eat a ton of it. Like I already know we've had rice this week already. We've got other stuff on the menu. So kind of another thing that's great about risotto is you can portion it down based on how much you need. So I've made vats of risotto for 20 people at a party, and now I'm making risotto for two people. It's really simple. So I don't need a ton of onion. So what I'm going to do is show you guys how to cut an onion without crying. So there are two parts of an onion. One is the root, this is what goes into the ground, and the other is the bulb or the head. This is what sticks up. So what you're going to do is just off with their head, make it nice and flat. Well, it kind of almost looks like a heart. Do you guys see? It's like a little heart in there. So one thing that I always say is round things roll. So to keep our round things from rolling, we're cutting off the head, and then we're gonna cut our onion in half, leaving the root ends attached, right? So when we're cutting an onion, the reason we cry is there are gases that are inside the onion, and when those gases get released, that's what makes us cry. So if we kind of like trap them through the cutting process, it makes it a lot easier. And I kind of think of this root as like, I call it the prison, right? So the root keeps those gases engaged or like locked in there. I'm going to get a bowl for my cut onions. Um, so we're going to leave that root end on as long as we possibly can. I'm also going to show you these lines. You see how like there are these lines on the onion? These lines are your guide. It's the same thing as like on a shallot. So what I'm going to do is cut. Woo, and if you guys see, I have about like a half an inch or so to that root end. And then I'm just going to go one way and the other. And now you guys can see I have all of these different like slices here, but it's still connected by the root. I'm not crying. Sometimes you get like a really, really fierce onion. I call them angry onions. And no matter what you do, it's going to make you cry. All right, so we'll do this other one here. Perfect. And now it's ready to chop. Before I get into the actual chopping process, I do want to talk about knife skills. So I'm going to show you guys how I use a chef's knife. I'm obviously not home with you working in the kitchen beside you, so I can't help you. I invite you to try it this way, but safety first always, right? So use whatever way feels safe and comfortable to you. But this is how I like to use a knife. And to me, it's all about balance. So this is my chef's knife. You take your thumb and your pointer finger and you pinch the blade and wrap your hand around the handle, just like this. And you might be like, whoa, no, thank you. I'm not going to put my hand on the blade. But the reality is any good knife, it's actually really comfortable for you to put your hand right here. The handle is like a good spot for you. And then the other thing is thinking about the knife as an extension of your arm. I'm like just trying to get this onion string off for some reason. It's an extension of your arm and think about balance. So when I'm holding my knife like this, it's perfectly balanced in my arm. Versus when I have it this way, I can feel the pull from here on my knife. So it's not perfectly balanced. The other thing is I'm not putting my finger out. When I do, if you look, I'm hitting my wrist, pinch, I have full range of motion, right? So this, again, it's like this balanced, full control of my knife. The other thing is I'm never going to go straight up and down on my knife. That utilizes one part of my knife, so that becomes dull. The rest remains sharp. Instead, again, extension of my arm, it's a rocking motion. So my knife is going up and down like this. My knife's never really leaving the cutting board. All right. So now that we've got all these nice slices in here, we're just going to turn it the other way. And there you go. Easy peasy. It's like the fastest way to chop onion. Done. And two. So the smaller you make like your cuts on your onion, the smaller your dice is going to be. So if you want a big dice, you can do the small dice, petite, whatever you need. But it's a really quick way to chop onion. Of course, now it's been cut off of that root, so the gases are out. So I'm just going to take my onion and move it. If you're doing a ton of onion, like sometimes I have to chop 3 or 4 onions for a recipe, I'll do all of them prepped with the root end still attached, and then I'll start dicing after. Just makes it easier. All right, we're gonna put that there. Great. And then I'm gonna chop some garlic for the risotto. So it's gonna be a pretty simple chop on this. So sharp end of the knife away from me, round things roll. I'm gonna smash it. So I put the blade down and smash. And I do this for a couple reasons. One, like I said, round things roll. But the other reason is because it starts like getting those juices out. So it starts to break down the garlic for me. All right. And then I like to call this, oh, I just learned the actual name of this. It's in geometry, which I almost failed, but like I call it a protractor. I know that's not what it is. Is it a compass? Maybe. Do you guys know when you put like the point down and you move it around, you can draw a circle? That's kind of like the move with this on the knife. So I'm going to put my knife down and then I'm just going to go right like this, and it's going to allow me to get a nice fine chop on my garlic. There we go. Easy peasy. All right, and that is gonna go in my little cup and over there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and prep my shallot over here. This is for our pesto. I love shallot in my pesto. And so because we're doing this in the food processor, I don't have to worry about chopping it well. The food processor is going to do that for me. So I'm just cutting off the ends. I'm going to cut it in half, peel it, and then I'll just do big chunks and I'll let the food processor do the work. Oop, should have peeled that first. Oh no, I just cut it the wrong way. I knew I had to cut it. There we go. All right, one. And we'll talk more about the pesto in a bit. I wanted to show you guys this little bowl I have too. I'm not making a lot of like a trash on this recipe on this class, so I don't have a big one, but this is my compost bowl. It's my thank you for coming bowl. You don't compost, it's your trash bowl, but it's essentially the idea of having a place where when you're cooking and prepping, you can put trash, compost, whatever. So you're not going back and forth to your trash can. So it's just like, thank you, like I don't need you anymore. And then what you're doing is you're creating a space for all of that to kind of like gather. And then when you're ready, you can just dump that in the trash and then come back. So it helps you have this clean workstation. You know, cooking, I think cooking is wonderful, but it can be frustrating when you're in this like chaotic mess. So finding little ways to kind of keep it clean and organized just makes it easier. So I'm going to take my shallots. I'm just going to throw into my food processor. Done. And then I'm just going to move this to the side. We don't really need it for now. And we're going to do our chicken. I'm going to leave that there. All right. So we are going to do a crispy skin chicken thigh. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a spice rub on the chicken. And I need a little bit of oil. So you could do any type of spices you want. You could do salt and pepper. You could do, I love, there's this blend called berbere. It's an Ethiopian chili powder that I adore. So you could do that. But my partner and I, we made Cajun seasoning the other day, and it was so good. So we're going to do Cajun seasoning. So I'm just adding a little extra salt and pepper to this. And this is my little container of spice. So true story, one of the like hotbeds of cross-contamination in most kitchens is actually your spices. Because if you're seasoning something and it's raw meat, it's kind of easy to transfer. So whenever I'm working with something like chicken or any raw meat, really, I always get my spices ready and I put them in a separate container. That way I don't have to worry about it. Easy peasy, not a problem. So I've got my cast iron on back here. I'm going to turn it up to probably about 6. There's just a little bit of olive oil in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to sear the chicken thigh on the skin side. And then it's going to go in the oven. And it's going to go on in the oven with a lot of these aromatics, which I'll talk about once the chicken gets going. So the most important step for our crispy skin chicken is we need to get the chicken dry. So when I take it out, because you don't want to cook meat straight from the refrigerator. That's like a surefire way to have raw meat. So what I do is when I have to wash my hands. I forgot about the olive oil. Silly raw meat. All right. So what I do is I take it out of the fridge about like 20 to 30 minutes before I'm going to cook it, depending on the size of the cuts. And then I wrap it in paper towels. So I've got these beautiful chicken thighs and I'm going to season both sides. So I'm just going to flip them over. I'm going to put just a little olive oil down on this side. I'm not going to put olive oil down the other side. There's a little olive oil in my pan, but also the chicken skin is going to render that fat. So it's going to be great. All right. And then I've got my seasonings, my little spice rub. Again, this could just be salt and pepper. If you like lemon pepper or rotisserie seasoning, any of those things. All right. And then I'm going to flip it. Perfect. And the other half. I always make sure I'm seasoning both sides because you want the meat on the inside to be like really seasoned well too. But I also love the seasoning on the skin. There we go. Get it all. Might be extra spicy. That's okay. All right. And check to see this pan is nice and hot. So I'm going to bring this over and I want to hear a sizzle. That's the key. All right, so let's see. Yep, I got a sizzle. So I put them down. Hey, Google, set a timer for 5 minutes. All right, in the pan they go. Wash my hands and clean that up. Nice and sizzling. And then I'm just gonna give a quick little spray. Clean that up. Perfect. All right. So we're gonna sear it for 5 minutes. Here's the key when you're searing is you don't want to touch it. So I put it in the pan. It is staying in the pan. I'm not touching the pan for 5 minutes. It's kind of like testing your patience, right? But that's how you get a good sear. Because what happens is every time you check on it to make sure it's crispy, you're putting air in there and it's cooling it down. So it's not going to be as crisp as you want it. All right. So that's going to hang out. The other thing, and I'll show you the pan when I bring it up here. The other thing is that my pan, the chicken has some space around it, so it's not like sitting all on top of each other, because what that will do is create steam. So you need some space. And so what we're going to do is we're going to season the chicken with some aromatics as well. It's another way to kind of build some flavor. And they're also like it roasts with the chicken and then it's just really yummy to kind of like squeeze the roasted lemon on top or eat one of these garlic cloves. I don't chop the garlic up small. I just take garlic cloves, I smash them so you guys can see here. And the reason for that is if you do like small chopped garlic, it's going to burn, okay? And then I've got some nice herbs here. So I've got parsley. No, I don't. I have rosemary, thyme, and sage. So this normally like in the growing season, I'm going out to my garden and picking these things that I want. It's not the growing season right now, so I don't really have any herbs, but most stores have like the poultry mix, which is the rosemary, the thyme, and the sage. And I like to just buy that because it's an easy way to get all those different flavors that we really want in there. All right. It's already smelling so good. So I want to talk about the chicken too really quickly. So for this recipe, I'm searing it. When we sear it, we're guaranteeing that we're getting that really beautiful crispy skin. That being said, it is not a necessary step. So, it's a guarantee. I think it adds a lot of flavor. I love it, but I also love to do this for a crowd. This is a great recipe for a crowd. So I do farm suppers and I'll have like 50 people coming to dinner, and this is the chicken recipe that I'm using because I can make it on a sheet pan. So we're roasting this chicken at a really, really, really high temp. So what that means is the outside is going to get crispy while the inside cooks. And because we're doing the bone, it's a little bit more forgiving. So we're doing the thighs, which are dark meat, and the bone, which kind of like it takes longer, but it also imparts more moisture. So it gives us more wiggle room. So we don't have to worry about overcooking the chicken as much. All right. So let's see. It's going to keep going. And then once the chicken goes in the oven, it's going to be time for us to start making our risotto. So for our risotto, we're going to talk about that. I'll bring this stuff over. I'll bring just that. Hey, Google, how much time is on my timer? Oh, we have less than a minute left. Great. All right. So I'm roasting this at 425. Again, it's a pretty high temp. But what's great is that the asparagus and the tomatoes that we're going to use in this class are also getting roasted at that temperature. So it makes it really simple. And did they have to get roasted at that temperature? Not necessarily, but I only have one oven. So I'm thinking I like can just use this one oven. I can use these things in like the same temperature and it'll be fine, right? So all right, let's check this chicken. I actually haven't made this chicken in a while, so I'm pretty excited. All right. Hey, Google, stop timer. All right, so I'm gonna bring it over here. So as you guys can see on the chicken, right, we've got lots of space. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna put all my aromatics in the pan before I flip it. And the reason for that is once I flip it, I want that meat sitting on top of these things. So I don't want to cover it with the lemon and the herbs and stuff. I want it to sit on top of it. So I'm just gonna put this stuff in. It's so pretty. There we go. All right, and now I'm gonna flip it. And again, we want to make sure we're giving some space. Yes. So I can already see my skin is starting to get crispy. It's looking golden. I'm putting this meat on top of these lemons and garlic. And what that means is that like when it's cooking, the steam is going to raise those flavors up, but it also means that the juice of my chicken is going to drip down onto those things and like just make that garlic and lemon that much more delicious. All right. Look at how pretty this is. I just love it. So you guys can see we're already starting to get that crispy skin on here. It's going to keep crisping in the oven. It's going to render that fat and it's going to create just this really beautiful dish. So that's going to go in the oven for 20 minutes. Hey, Google, set a timer for 20 minutes. All right. It just like splattered on my stovetop and we're going to come over. So I want to make it look pretty for you guys. All right, so now we're gonna make our risotto. This is this thing that everybody talks about as being so complicated and hard and like all these other words. And I'm just gonna like demystify it for you so you can realize how absolutely easy this is. The hardest part about risotto is you have to stir it. But even then, I'm not gonna stir it constantly. I'm gonna make the risotto and pesto and veggies and other things. It's not gonna have my full attention, and that is okay. So I'm just gonna start by sweating these onions down that we cut. So I've got olive oil in my pan and I've got some onions here and I'm going to move it so you guys can watch in just a moment. But you don't need to watch the whole process, right? All right. And then I'm going to add some salt. So one of the things that's really important whenever I'm cooking is the layering of salt. So when I'm cooking onions, I always want to put a little salt in there because I want that salt to start the cooking process. It kind of breaks it down, it releases some of the waters and just makes it easier. And so into this risotto, we have the onion, garlic, and then here is our risotto rice. So risotto is an Italian rice. It's arborio rice is the actual name for it. And they're very short and fat. I'm gonna like hold it up so you guys can see. It is not a long grain rice at all. It's very fat and it's very starchy. And the starch is what makes risotto creamy. So it's actually a really easy dish to do like dairy free and still be really creamy and delicious. So if you have people with allergies, it's a really great dish. It's gluten free. So all these amazing things. So what I'm going to do is we're going to cook the onions, which I hear sizzling now. We're going to add the garlic and then we're going to do something called toasting the risotto. So I'm going to move the camera so you guys can watch the risotto cooking process. There we go. Let's see. Yeah, it's a nice view. Nice and tall. Want to make sure I can still get in there though. Perfect. All right. So over here we have our risotto and then or that's going to be cooking. And then next to it in this pan, this is my stock. So risotto, essentially what you're doing is you're not adding all of the stock at once like you would traditional rice. You're slowly adding it in as it cooks. And one of the keys is actually having a stock that's warm. So one of the things people talk about is how risotto takes forever to make, when the reality is there's a few things you can do to kind of help circumvent that and like make it smoother. So one is, if you guys look at the shape of my pan, I don't have a like tall pan. I have a shallow and like a wide pan. And this is because if a wide pan, I have a larger surface area of heat, which means I'm like heating my risotto more thoroughly and more evenly. The other thing is my stock, well, it's not boiling right now because I turned it down, but my stock is hot. So if I were to add cold stock to my hot risotto, every single time I added it, it would cool it down. So it would shock it. So it would make it take so much longer to make. And so I have those two pots working side by side. So for this, I'm sweating the onions and I'm looking for them to be translucent, essentially. I'm not going to brown them or anything like that. I just want them a little bit cooked down. And they're almost there. And then I'm going to add my garlic. The garlic takes about 30 seconds. Um, I get like mad anytime I find a recipe that says to cook your onions and your garlic at the same time because they will never cook at the same time. So if you ever see that, no, that is not what I do. Chef Kelcy said, cook the onion. Garlic is 30 seconds before the next step because you don't want to burn garlic. Burnt garlic is the worst. It is a flavor you can't get out. All right. These are nice and sweated down. I'm going to add in my garlic. And then the next thing we're going to do, it's called toasting the risotto. So we're not actually looking for it to go brown, okay? But what we're doing is we are warming it up. We're covering it with this nice oil so that when we start to add liquid to it, it doesn't just turn to mush. It kind of helps it with the absorbing at a like more even rate. And it just gives us this really wonderful risotto. All right. That's been about 10 seconds. So we're going to add in our rice. And I'm just going to stir. And then this is the part where we're doing the toasting. And then we're going to talk about how we stir risotto. And again, it all comes down to how we like maintain the heat. Because maintaining even heat while cooking risotto makes it like cook so fast. It's really a breeze. And so with this risotto, we're going to cook it. It's going to be perfect. It's going to be yummy. And we're going to serve it with some veggies. So I'm going to get some vegetables ready once we start cooking over there. And it's going to be blistered tomatoes and asparagus, which are so yummy together. I love it. I also love the spinach pesto that I'm going to make. I made this pesto with spinach over the weekend for another program, and it was so good. All right. So this is nice and warm. Again, you guys can see it's not brown. Like I don't have toasted rice here. It's just the process is called toasting, but it's not brown. It's just warmed up. And now one of my favorite parts, if you don't drink, you can skip this part, just do more stock, but I love cooking with wine. And so this, I call it my wine facial, essentially. So we're going to deglaze. You're going to stir it and then up in your face. It's Pinot Grigio. It smells so good. It's good for the pores. There we go. All right. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook out all the alcohol. So I'm going to turn my down a little bit. So I'm cooking out the alcohol. And the way that I know that it's done is when you smell and it doesn't burn your nostrils. That's how I can always tell if the alcohol in my recipe is cooked out. Because if I smell it and it's like, whoa, then we know the alcohol is there. And it wasn't a lot of alcohol, so it didn't take very long. All right, my friends, it is time to start adding our stock. So I'm going to add about a half a cup at a time, not even really. All right, so I've added my stock, and now this is the part that is like the key to risotto, and it's how we stir it. I am not stirring it like this, right? Again, I talked about maintaining that heat. So if I'm stirring it really fast, I'm introducing cool air. Instead, it's a figure eight, okay? It's a kind of like a meditative process, just like this. And there we go. Easy peasy. And then this is like it. This is all you're going to keep doing with your risotto until it's cooked. And you're looking for it to be al dente, so you want it to still have a little bit of a bite. And then you know it's time to add more stock. I call it like parting the risotto sea. So when you put your spoon through, I can see the bottom, but the stock kind of fills in quickly. So I'm going to wait just a little bit longer and then I'll add more stock and then we'll continue the process. And that's how you make risotto. That's it. And then we'll add our flavors at the end. Let me turn it down just a little bit more. All right, so now I'm doing it. The stock's not flooding in. So I'm gonna add some more. There we go. So when this is done, I'm gonna finish it with some Parmesan cheese and butter. And in the recipe I gave you guys, I also finish it with lemon zest and lemon juice. But last night I made rice and I added the leftover spinach pesto that I had. And I was like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever had in my life. I'm not going to add lemon. I'm going to add the pesto straight to the risotto and we are going to be happy. So that is what we're going to do. Okay, so let's finish getting our veggies ready for it. So here I have some cherry tomatoes. So out of season, I only buy the ones that are on the vines because they just taste so much better. So I've got these little cherry tomatoes. And both things are only going to get seasoned with a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of salt. So we're going really simple here. And these are great like for presentation too, because you take it out and it's still on here and it just looks fancy, even though it was so easy. All right, so a little salt. Boom, tomatoes are ready. And then I'm gonna give this a stir. Like I said, see, you can multitask and make risotto. Who knew? The stirring is important though. Like you don't want to just not stir it. Because the stirring is what not reduces, it's what releases all of the starch. So all of that starch comes out because of the stirring process. So it is important, but you don't have to feel like you have to stand over it the whole entire time working it. Okay. All right, and then for our asparagus, this is how I keep my asparagus at home. So when I get back from the store or the farmer's market, I just chop off the bottom and then I store it in water and I wash them. It makes it really easy. They last longer. I put them in the fridge just like this and it helps it kind of stay firm. It's just taking a drink, like your Christmas tree. All right, so what I'm doing now is I'm just bending it and where it breaks naturally, that's the tender part of the asparagus. So all this down here, it's really woodsy. I don't want it. That can get composted. Give this a stir. Bless you. My partner sneezed on the other side of the room. You guys couldn't hear him, but I could. All right. You can do multiple at a time. And then this is also just going to get roasted with a little bit of salt and olive oil. I don't need to put a ton of flavor into this because one, I just love the taste of asparagus, but two, we're adding lots of different flavors into that pesto. And so that's going to give us a lot of our flavor. All right, put this like that. Great. Okay, give this a stir. So you guys can see it's already starting to get thicker. The rice is pumping up. It's almost time to add more. I'm not making a ton of rice, so it might not take too long to cook, but I can tell I need more stock. So I'm gonna add in another third of a cup. If I'm making a bigger batch, I add more than like a third of a cup at a time. I normally do about one-ish cup at a time. But because I'm making such a small batch, I'm just gonna add a half a cup because it's only like a total of 2 cups. All right. Got my olive oil. I've got my salt. Give everything a little shake. Nice and happy. And that's it. This is gonna go in the oven, same temp as our chicken. Oh, it's hot in there. Turn on my oven light too so I can keep an eye on everything. Yes. All right, go back to giving this a stir. And now it's time to make pesto. So if you don't have a food processor, which is what I'm using for this, you could easily use a blender or a mortar and pestle. It just takes a little bit longer. I'm going to plug this in right here. Great. Okay, so for this pesto, we're going to do a spinach. And I know, like I said, the recipe I gave you is for arugula and basil, which is also absolutely delicious. But we have spinach on hand. It is in season right now, so that's what we're going to use. All right. So in here, I have some pine nuts. I actually normally don't put nuts with my pesto just because if I don't have them, I don't think it's necessary. Although basil pesto with pine nuts is amazing. But you could use any type of nuts that you wanted. So I actually really like walnuts and pecans with this, but I had pine nuts in my freezer. So I was like, I'm going to use them. And then I have garlic and shallots. And then I'm going to add some lemon. So I'm going to add lemon zest. So this is my microplane. And what I'm doing is I'm just taking this top layer of skin from my lemon. So you guys, I'm going to show you on this camera. Do you guys see how, where am I? There I am. There I am. So do you guys see how there's the dark yellow and then it gets really pale right here? That's called the pith. And the pith is really bitter. So we don't want that. We just want the top. And the reason is most flavor in citrus is in the oil and the oil is in the skin. So hold on, I'm going to taste this. Oh no, we've got a ways to go. We've got a ways to go, people. There we go. You never know though. Still got a good bite. All right. And we're back to pesto. All right. So it's a really easy way to add a lot of that like bright citrus flavor without adding the acid and the juice. So I love the lemon zest, orange zest, any zest. Baking, it's my jam. Any baked good is better with some citrus in it, but just the zest. All right, so we've got that. I think we're going to do both zests, and we'll see how much juice we need when we get there. So bright. One of the other things I always talk about when you're cooking is you should always cook food that you think tastes good. So if you're reading this recipe and you're like, I love lemon, then add more. Or if you're like, this is not enough garlic for me, I need more garlic, add more garlic. I'm just this firm believer that if you're cooking something that you don't think tastes very good, why are you going to eat it? So if you're going to spend the time doing it, make something that you think tastes good. Make the adjustments based on what you like. All right, I'm going to get a little red pepper flake in here. Speaking of things that I like, I want a little bit of heat action. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pulse it. So like I said, I'm really letting the food processor do the work for me on this. So I didn't chop up my scallions, my shallots or my garlic or anything. The food processor did it for me. All right. And then we're just going to add the rest of our things and then we're finishing our risotto. Hey Google, how much time's left on my timer? 3 minutes and 46 seconds. Amazing how fast time goes. All right. So this is all chopped up. It's looking good. Now I'm going to add my spinach. And this is honestly, I love this pesto recipe and it's so versatile and you can do so many things with it. I'm just like stuffing the spinach in here. A prime example is that I talked about the rice that I did. So we had leftover white rice. We got Chinese takeout over the weekend and we had leftover rice because they gave us a ton of it. And I was like, okay, well, what are we going to do with this? And so last night we were making dinner and I was like, I'm going to use this pesto. And so I used some of the pesto in the rice with more garlic that I cooked in olive oil. And then what I did is I took Greek yogurt and I added the rest of the pesto to it. And I did charred green beans and I put that Greek yogurt pesto over the top of it to serve. And it was phenomenal. We loved it. It was so good. So I was like, I can't wait to make more pesto tonight because now we can put it on everything. So it's great with vegetables. You could do it with a dip. You could, I love it on a breakfast sandwich or avocado toast or really anything. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil to help break up the spinach as it's pulsing. Just helps it move around in there easier. There we go. We're gonna go back to our risotto. See, it's looking plumper. Think we're getting there. Let's check it. All right, so I get to this point and then I just start tasting my rice. We're almost there. So essentially, I'm gonna add more stock. Essentially, what I'm looking for is for it to still have a little bit of a bite to it, but to be, I don't want to say soft the whole way through, but to be tender, kind of like al dente pasta, you know? And so I added some more stock. The other thing is you don't want to cook it until it's completely dry. So we want this like really nice creamy sauce. And so we want to make sure we still have some stock. So it could be you taste it before you add stock and you're like, oh no, this is perfect. It's done. Great. Add a small scoop of stock to it so you can get that really nice starchy sauce too, right? Um, this is almost done though. I'm very excited. It's doing a great job. And everyone thinks risotto is hard, right? It's like so simple. It's just rice. All right, so in here, spinach, I'm gonna add lemon juice. So when I am juicing lemons, I cut a shallow X in my lemon. The reason for this is lemon peels, when you juice them, they roll in. If you cut a shallow X, it flours out. So you're gonna get a lot more lemon juice. My partner taught me that. He's from New York City, first generation Dominican, and he worked at Yankee Stadium with all the other Dominican kids making lemonade. And they had to juice a lot of lemons. So it's kind of one of those things that's amazing about cooking with people from different cultures is that you learn from them. Like my family's Pennsylvania Dutch. Oh, there we go. Hey, Google, stop timer to check our chicken. But my family was Pennsylvania Dutch, so like citrus was not something that they ever really worked with when I was, my ancestors were growing up and all those things. But my partner, like his family, they're all tropical and they use citrus in a lot of things. So it's a cool way to kind of like share. Oh, look at that chicken. You guys see how good that looks? We're gonna check the temp on that. See where we're at. I'm gonna check it on the big guy. Oh, snap. Look at that. We got 185. Looks like it's done. Yeah, perfect. So we have like this beautiful crispy skin. Our chicken is fully cooked. Our risotto is just about done. Our pesto is finishing up. I'm going to move this up here. I actually think this risotto might be done now because the rice looks really plump. And it is. All right. So you guys can see on my rice, it's still got stock in it. So I'm happy. I'm going to just turn it off, leave it back there. We're going to finish it with our pesto, right? So we're going to bring this over here. Hopefully no one gets vertigo. There we go. All right. So we've added our lemon juice. I'm going to add pepper. I'm going to add some salt. All right, and then I'm going to add cheese. So normally I would say Parmesan cheese, that's what you use, but I've been on this like Pecorino Romano kick lately. I just love it. So that's what I'm going to use. All right, and needs more olive oil. So pesto has a lot of oil in it, but that's okay. And let's taste it. Looks lovely. All right, it needs more pepper. I'm going to say it needs more cheese. I'm going to say it needs more salt. And I think it needs more red pepper flake. The importance of tasting our food. Okay. I'm going to go a little bit lighter on the salt because Parmesan is naturally, Pecorino Romano. It's naturally salty. So it's another way that you kind of get salt in a recipe. I think it needs more lemon juice. The heat is good though. We're gonna add a little bit more lemon juice. Honestly, it might need more Parmesan. I made a lot of pesto. All right, so more lemon. Lemon. Do that. And a bit more salt. There we go. All right, let's see how that is. Mm, perfect. There it is. All right, I'm gonna move this. We're gonna check. Our tomatoes have burst. All right, we're gonna finish our risotto. So we're gonna take that stuff out of the oven. We're gonna finish our risotto and we're gonna plate. So our tomatoes, look at that. They look so fancy. So they've like burst open. They're lovely. And our asparagus is done. It's amazing how quickly it can come together. All right. So to finish our risotto, I've got some butter and Parmesan cheese here. So we're going to add that. Let that melt in. And then I'm also going to add some pesto. It's going to make it like super green and beautiful. There we go. And we're going to mix it all up. If you're mixing it and you're looking at it and you think like, well, it's not quite as saucy as I want it, you could always add a little bit more stock to it. And of course, we'll have to taste it for salt and pepper. But the thing about risotto is because we're cooking it with a stock, unless you're using like a no salt added stock, the odds are actually pretty good. You're not going to have to season it too much because of the fact that you have that like salt already present there. Then plus we're adding like that cheese and that other stuff. So I'm going to add some pepper. I love this green color. All right, let's give it a taste. Mm, it's so good. I think it's perfect. All right, so let's plate. So I have these lovely little bowl plates here. Finish mixing this up. All right. Right in the center with the risotto. And then like when I plate the risotto, I like to make like a little well in the center, and that's where I'm going to put my chicken. Tongs. All right. So give my partner this big guy here. And then I think I want this one. And then I was saying like these lemons, you could just kind of put a few of these lemons around the plate and the garlic, all this yummy flavor. You could make a pan sauce with this too if you wanted. All right. And then we've got our asparagus. So we'll just put some asparagus on the side. There we go. And then my favorite, tomatoes. I think they're so fancy. Look at this. Ready? Like, how cool is that? So I'm just gonna do this because I think it looks good. I don't know. Sometimes I know how to plate food. There we go. And then we'll finish it with just a little bit of this pesto. We're gonna do like a little swirl action. A little swirl. And then when I know that I'm gonna be cooking a few meals in a week and I want to make them like look pretty and fancy, I'll just chop parsley and store it in the fridge. So I've got some chopped parsley here, and we're just gonna do that for a little another bit of green on top. And my friends, that is it. We just made a beautiful risotto dinner with chicken and veggies. And it's not even 8 yet. So easy. Does anybody have any questions or like anything?
Maureen said it looks beautiful in the chat.
Oh, thank you, Maureen. I think so too. This like it feels like spring, you know?
Does anyone have any other questions for Chef Kelsey tonight about the recipe or anything with the process that she did tonight?
Felt like I was pretty thorough. But hopefully I demystified risotto for you guys. It really isn't complicated. And like I said, it's great because you can make it for one, you can make it for two, you can make it for eight, you can make it for 30. You just need a big enough pot, honestly.
Any other questions or comments? Cynthia wrote, sounds wonderful, mouth watering.
Ugh, I know. I wish we had smell-o-vision. If only it were a real thing, you know? So all right, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you learned a little and I hope you make this at home for yourself.
Thank you, Kelsey, again for another wonderful presentation tonight. Everything looks delicious and yummy. Enjoy.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for
Yeah,
watching me make dinner.
you're welcome.
Yeah.
And this video is being recorded and we'll be posting it on our YouTube page if you want to rewatch it. And again, I posted the recipe for tonight's presentation in the chat for the lemon risotto. All right,
Awesome.
everyone. I hope you all have a good night. And thanks again, Kelsey. Good to see you
Thank
all and
you.
take
Thank you.
care.
Thank you. Bye,
Bye
guys.
bye.